What's going on, Soul Tribe? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to my channel, Alchemist. Justin here, and bringing another little nugget to add to the Soul Tribe archive. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about Venus in Scorpio in the ninth house, and this is an interesting one for Venus to be in. Now, when you talk about that lovely Venus, the nature of Venus is to attract and to create unions and harmony and balance. There's this relationship aspect with Venus, wanting to bring together friendships and comrades and lovers and marriages and, just laughter and all the things that are just pleasant in this world. Venus really adds just a nice touch on this journey. And there's a real strong creative capacity with Venus too. There's this ability to, whether it be in the arts, whether it be, that could be music, painting, cooking, jewelry, perfume making, all of those things, those are going to do kind of fall into the aspects of Venus. And Venus too, it was known as the lesser benefic. So especially if you have a night chart, you want to have a good relationship with Venus, because Venus is going to be its most beneficent and in a night chart. Now, when you talk about Scorpio, Scorpio is traditionally ruled by Mars, and they are the fixed water sign, and they are active, or excuse me, no, they're not. They are receptive or yin in nature. And the interesting thing about Scorpio is that there's an intensity with Scorpio, but I think one comes with that focus to be able to, when they channel onto a feeling, that sort of penetrative energy of Mars allows them to lock onto a certain feeling. Whether this is a hunch, a nudge, something, and whatever it is that guides the Scorpio energy. And I find that there is, when Scorpio is fixed on something, there's nothing that can stop it. It's going to get to the undercurrents of things, and there's a strong intuition with Scorpio when you think about having that fixed water, being able to feel those undercurrents, that kind of strong psychic energy there. But what I find with them being ruled by Mars is that, it's tougher when you're holding certain emotions and lock them in. But Mars gives them that power to not just to feel through those emotions, but to break through them. To have those sort of and then to use those emotions and channel them in a real constructive way. So that's a real powerful kind of alchemizing ability that Scorpio has, especially when it comes to that emotional sphere. And then you talk about the ninth house. The ninth house in ancient astrology is known as the house of God, and it's going to be one of the Caden houses. And some of the themes that the ninth house covers are going to deal with like travel, but especially like we're talking like foreign places. It can deal with like foreigners or just like different people from different cultures. Talking about education, especially in terms of higher education. Spirituality comes into this, religion, your beliefs. That's going to be astrology, divination, and sort of oracular kind of things that kind of fall into this ninth house. So when you're working with this placement, a few things to consider. One, you'd have a Pisces rising by whole sign, and you're going to want to look to see where Mars is, because Mars is going to be responsible for and import the themes of this house and of your second house, which deals with like your finances, your livelihood, and your possessions, to wherever Mars is. And then Venus is going to be responsible for your eighth house, which deals with like the themes of like mortality, inheritances, and the money and possessions of others, as well as import the themes of the third house, which deals with like your siblings, relatives, family, community, neighborhood, immediate environment, learning, especially like kind of like early learning, but just kind of learning in general, communications, travel, and short distance travel. The third house is a busy house. So couple things that kind of come up for me when we're thinking about this. One, that I would think with Venus being in this place, well, one thing to talk about, this is where Venus does find itself in its detriment. And when a celestial body is in its detriment, or a planet is in its detriment, that just means that it's in its home opposite from one of its home signs, which in Venus's case is Taurus. So where Venus is used to being grounded more in Taurus and kind of having those kind of consistent long-term things, now there's a bit of intensity in the relationships. Now there may be, Scorpio can even be, there's an aspect of trust, I think, that Scorpio has, that, it takes that, getting to peel the layers of Scorpio to get down to that distance there. So it could be, Venus could be a little more off, like not off-putting, but just harder to get to know, at first. But when we're talking about this placement here, one thing that I would, kind of explore is understanding what is that relationship with kind of like other cultures and things. Like, I think where it's fascinating that Venus is in the house of travel and rules the other house of travel and like sort of like education and foreign people. So this would be one is, yeah, just thinking about the culture that you've been exposed to, from the foods that you've been exposed to, from the books that you've read, from the people that you've met. Travel, with this placement, not just around your. And I mean, you could find, depending on where you're at, maybe exploring different cultural things, maybe around your neighborhood, of course, your environment, obviously, but also be open to expand your world. Go to travel to foreign places. And again, learn a language with that third house there. Venus, I think, would be excellent for learning different languages for places that you may want to go, and just really enriching your world there, developing these. And I would think with Venus and Scorpio, developing these real kind of intimate connections, hopefully with people. Something that again kind of enriches your experience. I could see this Venus too just being really just kind of a divinely inspired. There's a real strong mysticism between the eighth house. There's some occult themes there. Again, I mentioned that in the ninth house, and even the third house has some sort of like dream interpretations kind of get into there. So this could be one where have a dream journal, look into different meditative practices. Maybe explore like how like different cultures would even use like dance and things to inspire. So like explore those different things. Education, I think, like, because it's not just, you don't have to travel all over the place, but you can even get this in reading things. I mean, the internet has opened the world up to us. So I mean, there's a numerous ways to take in this knowledge there, to see what other people are talking about, to see what other cultures are inheriting. I think that this would be a very kind of curious placement as far as like just understanding how other people work, really kind of getting down to the like seeing how what people inherit from their environments and things, and how that just shapes different cultures, and then just how you come to how it helps you kind of approach your environment and the perspectives that you bring to your community and the way that you come, just communicate to people and things. So yeah, just something there with that. It might even introduce you to different people from like in like the who've come from just like maybe different educational backgrounds and things like that. That might be another way that comes up. Teaching, I think, would just be something that happens with this placement, whether you as a mentor, maybe teach at early education, maybe teach at high school. I think any grade, considering that this is just the educational access, just any grade. I think that would be something that would be really neat there. There may be something that comes up with the, maybe with the siblings. That's an interesting one there. Maybe you have some siblings who are very well traveled, or who have introduced you to different places, or maybe some family members who happen to do that. I think that there would even be just even kind of pay attention to like the beliefs that you've picked up from your early environment, the ways that, from how your beliefs may be different from your siblings or from your relatives, and where they are the same, and how you're kind of passing that, and how you're kind of sharing those kind of beliefs there with others. I would think that maybe the challenge with Venus being in its detriment is just that if you feel something very strongly and there's someone that really kind of challenges that belief, that how do you hold that capacity where it's like, I don't have to subscribe to these people and their beliefs, but I also don't have to be where I'm being disrespected either. It's not like we're just, Venus is just letting people just push their beliefs on them. But again, but Venus is the benefic here. I think that it'd just be something where it may not be as beneficent in Scorpio, but something with a little bit of effort there. I think that Venus can still do some good, could still do some good stuff here. But it is going to be that, I think that, again, that challenge of putting yourself out there, about trying different things, taking different travels, and getting involved with get to know your neighbors. That could be another thing that comes up there, because you never know what you'll get from other things, whether it's enriching knowledge, experiences, and maybe actual things. Just thinking about those eighth house themes. But yeah, I think I mentioned about occult studies, doing some sort of things into that, whatever that might be, looking into tarot, maybe astrology. What am I thinking about? We're looking in we're seeing, or oh dang it, the like crystal gazing, or just like scrying. That's the word I'm looking for. Scrying. I could use a teacher. But even again, like one kind of last thing, even again, maybe like you teach different languages. That could even be another. That's a great way of connecting with other people. Language communication. That's great. Doing something with like social media, something Venusian like that. Maybe exploring different art styles from different, pulling from different inspirations and things like that. But this would just be a because apparently I didn't realize that I thought I had more about to talk about this than I realized, but if you have this placement, because that's basically that's a rough estimate. You definitely need the whole chart to get an idea of how this may be manifesting. But if you have this placement or know someone who's working with this placement, down in the comment section, let us know how this has showed up there. Because I think again, the whole point of this sort of these videos is to create this archive for us to have notes to refer to see how other people's experience have certain similarities, with similar placements, but then you get to see how the planets and the placements make everything different, how the different themes flow together. So definitely share that. And if that's something that you want to explore, whether you have this placement natally, you want to get to know your natal chart differently, or see what kind of, maybe you're in where Venus is the Time Lord of the year for you, kind of see what aspects are coming up for the year. Or if you're wanting to plan any sort of like elections or anything like that, maybe have like a wedding, maybe you're getting ready to plan a trip, things like that, then down in the description box is a link to book a consultation with me. So definitely check that out. And if you have any questions as far as the services that I provide, my email's down there as well. So definitely always feel free to reach out. And last thing, there is a couple links for some playlists. One goes over, it's called Celestial News Weekly, and it talks about the sun and where the other classical planets are at, what signs they're in, where they're transiting, what signs are going to be most affected, and how to most pragmatically work with those energies. And then the other one is the lunar shenanigans, which talks about the astrology of the moon. Similar thing, what sign it's going through, what phase it's in, when it happens to be void of course, what aspects are perfecting, and the general just kind of feel of the energy as we go through that, because the moon moves so fast, and it's good to have eyes on that moon. So, but that's all I got for you there. So until next time. Because I'll have that announcement a little bit later. But until next time, stay mindful out there. Keep raising that vibration through the roof. And I will catch you on the next one. Later.